Saying that the president yesterday did make some pronouncements and called on other leaders also to take a cue because this time calls for individual sacrifice and collective sacrifice. And we have consulted with my brother here, and like I said, we speak up for ourselves because we are on recess, and members of parliament and both senators and members of National Assembly are still away. And we have also agreed that we are going to take a salary cut of 30% of our salary for the next 3 months until the situation improves. But for members of the National Assembly and members of the Senate, consultations are also going on. And in due course, we'll also be telling the country on measures that will be taken both as individual members of the National Assembly and Senate and as an institution of power on how we can also support this process or support what the president has called on us as leaders to do. So we have committed ourselves, and like I've said, and we'll be telling you in due course other measures that we shall be taking both as members of the National Assembly and Senate and as an institution of parliament. I think that is the announcement that we wanted to make. Maybe we'll take a few questions. Okay.
Question. From KTN. I know the Speaker is the chairman of the Parliamentary Service Commission, which really handles the matters to do with the salaries and remuneration of members. I don't know what will be your position since you're the Speaker. And the second question will be, we've seen efforts by some members of Parliament trying to write to the majority of the National Assembly so that he can collect the signatures and seek for a special sitting. If that was to happen, how will you ensure that you observe the rule of the social distancing rule, knowing that the members will finally be in the House?
Unfortunately, I touched my face. Thank you, Chris. In fact, there is no requirement for members to collect signatures. All that is required is to state the business that that the House needs to be recalled for a special sitting to come and transact. So I would advise or just remind those members who might have forgotten the rules that there is no requirement for collection of signatures. That is unnecessary. If indeed, and we believe there could be, because these are extraordinary times, there could be reason for urgent business to be transacted. The leaders, as I indicated earlier, would just write to either of us. And we are obligated, for the case of the National Assembly and Standing Order number 29, to recall the House, indeed, to even gazette the particular special sitting, while also indicating the business to be transacted. Now, you've asked a very interesting question about social distancing. Of course, the National Assembly chamber is designed to accommodate 350 persons seated. as you know, the Constitution also, quite curiously, provided that the National Assembly cannot transact any business unless there are present a minimum of 50 members and 15 members in the Senate. So therefore, we would have to begin working on logistics in the event we were to receive such a request, because of course, if we have 350 members, we are unlikely to be able to practice that requisite 1 meter distance from one another. And of course, we cannot also be oblivious to the fact that some members are a bit scared of congregating. So when the time comes, I'm sure our technical staff will sit with us and advise how best to deal with such a request should it arise. But I believe it should be arising. Yes?
My name is Gashuri from Citizen TV. Two questions. One,
Some of the tax measures that the President talked about yesterday are effective 1st of April 2020. And if the House does not sit before then, can these measures be implemented? Number one. And number two, do you think, in your opinion, as the speakers, that the House is broke a bit too early before maybe offering a substantive solution legislatively on some of the situations that we are finding ourselves in over this coronavirus pandemic?
Well, if I could start with the last, whether the House broke too early. Remember, our own calendar for the National Assembly was such that we were due to go to recess on Thursday, 19th of this month. And therefore, really adjourning on 17th cannot be said to have been too early, given the fact that the first announcement on the first case had already been made, and we had to take precautions. Would be sure rather than sorry. So it was. I cannot say that it was premature. Neither can I say the same even for the Senate, because we had to go and allow everybody sufficient time to stay at home, practice the various measures which had been recommended by the Ministry of Health and the team which is dealing with the pandemic, and also to allow the Parliamentary Service Commission. If you look at if you read the motion of adjournment, it was also to allow the Parliamentary Service Commission, through its staff and through the formation of a special committee of senior members of staff, to make arrangements, put in place mechanisms of ensuring that whenever it will be that the houses have to come back and sit, at least certain measures have been put in place to ensure that there is frequent hand washing, not an erratic one. Remember at that time everybody was buying all manner of things, sanitizers, everybody was in panic. But now we've had sufficient time to reflect on what needs to be done, and I'm happy to announce that the staff of Parliament have done a commendable job and put in place mechanisms of fumigating most of the places, the two chambers, all the committee rooms, so that at least everybody, whenever we are required to be back, everybody will feel safe and secure in the knowledge that no infections could come by their way while sitting either in the chamber or in committee. But of course, the challenge is that one of social distancing. Francis, you raised the issue of measures raised by the President yesterday, coming into place from 1st of April. That is not a challenge. That is Wednesday next week. It is not a challenge. As you know, Houses of Parliament are able, through the various mechanisms provided in the standing orders, to make arrangements as soon as we receive the legislative proposals, the bills, because they must originate from the executive. They are the one. It is the president who directed, not Parliament. He did not direct Parliament. He directed the National Treasury to move to Parliament. They will not just walk on their 2 feet. They walk here with bills, so that then, once we receive them, we will make appropriate arrangements. And I don't think that is a challenge for us to meet those objectives. Thank you very much.
Then there is the question. Probably you said that the senior staff of Parliament is sitting and all that. But then there is the question that pertains. Oh, Kennedy Muredi from NTV. There is a question that pertains. There are proposals that you already have on the table on this social distancing. And is it a probability that maybe there are those particular committees that are tasked with this duty of probably looking into the bills? Are they the same people that you want to call and achieve the probably recommended 50 to pass such a bill, or there are others that are on the table that have been put forward to you by the senior staff of Parliament?
For purposes of processing bills, there is a particular space for committees, but there is ultimately decisions by committees must have the full authorization of the House sitting as a House. It cannot be committees making decisions with such monumental impacts as the ones proposed by His Excellency the President, because obviously it is the Houses that make the decisions. The committees make recommendations. And I think we seem to be okay with what is happening so far. And let me also make just this one appeal. I'm consciously aware of the requirement in the Constitution. Of course, national values and principles of governance in Article 10 talk about public participation. Specifically, Article 118 requires Parliament and its committees to engage the public. But given the circumstances that we are in, we obviously require that certain processes be fast-tracked in order to ensure that the benefits that His Excellency the President hoped to trickle down to the common mwananchi are realized sooner rather than later. So we will obviously be making greater use, as we've done, of yourselves, the media, in ensuring that we get whatever feedback the public will be making towards those legislative proposals as they come. Thank you.
I just want to know, have you received recommendations from the National Treasury to guide on how long the tax reviews will last, or when are you expecting to implement it?
We haven't received, because this announcement was made last evening, and they are the ones who are directed by the President, as I said earlier, to move to Parliament. So they haven't moved. So we cannot ourselves, make any comments on when certain processes will happen and how they are going to happen. But we await communication from the National Treasury, because most of those interventions by the President, which, as far as we are concerned, as of now, are proposed interventions, have not been brought to us. But once they are, we will deal with them as appropriate.
I'm curious, Mr. Speaker, on the
30% pay cut, voluntary pay cut that you have made. How will you effect it? Will you channel that money to the Ministry of Health, or what will you do with that 30% cut? Because previously we've had stories of such voluntary proposals that didn't seem to go anywhere. So what are you doing with that 30% pay cut? Will you take it to the ministry, to a health center, to Mbagathi, or where will you take it?
My brother and I actually had occasion to discuss that that particular aspect. Thank you for actually raising that question, because as you say, the history of this country also doesn't reflect very well when it comes to such decisions. But it is my expectation, as we sat with my brother, we also said we hope that the National Treasury will be coming up with a mechanism of where those resources are going to be channeled to. Remember, if it is a fund, it is the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury who has constitutional mandate and also under the PFM Act to set up a fund. So we expect that the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury will be coming up with a mechanism of how those funds are going to be channeled. Thank you. Thank you very much. Maybe my brother could also tell you to allay some of your fears about when the Senate is reconvening.
Yeah, we are reconvening next week on Tuesday. That's what we agreed. And after that, we shall be sitting once every week just to deliberate on very, very urgent things. And like you have been told, the minimum quorum for the Senate are 15 senators, which is manageable. So we'll come up with logistics to ensure that at least if we have 15 or, minimum 15, then we can manage the rest of the team so that we observe the social distance in the Senate. I think that will be able to work. So we are working on the logistics, and we are also hoping that people will cooperate and assist us. And just to also wind up to appeal to our people, because we are also in touch with our people in the rural areas. I think this is a turning point on some of these cultural issues that we have in our country. I'm talking about it because I come from Western Kenya, where you don't wash your hands without seeing food to eat. But people are being told this time to wash their hands without seeing any food. Or, burials, people go there, they talk of a big burial because of who has died and the number of people who have attended. So I think we need we need to start changing. This is a turning point in some of the cultural things that we have really carried along for many, many years. So I want to appeal to our people that this virus is real. Don't wait until it strikes a relative before you believe that it's there. And let us support what the government is doing. Let us support what the president has said, the measures put in place, so that we are able to contain the situation, because the virus does not move on its own. It is moved by people. And that's why they are saying we should not be able to move. Let's remain at home. In any case, this has also given us an opportunity to bond as families, so that we are able now to stay at home longer than we have done. And that becomes our schedule now going forward. So thank you.
Speaker, I understand that before the pay cut is effective, you have to officially write to the responsible institution. I just want to know when are you going to do this? Because I'm sure they won't rely on what you are telling us.
We are going to do that immediately. We are responsible people. We cannot address the whole country just to lie. That would be very unfortunate. We are people of integrity. The clerks are here. We are going to make sure that is done. And like my colleague has said, our fears were how was it going to be managed, and how is it going to be accounted for. So that's going to be also put in place, like my colleague has said, by the National Treasury, so that everybody knows how much has been collected and where it's going to be channeled and exactly what's going to do. So we are going to do the necessary write-up to ensure that this is effected. Thank you.